As you think about your 9 pillars, and you've spent a lot of time, 2 decades, with these different cultures, what, if you can, do you prioritize the most out of any of them? If we could only do one thing, what would you change?
This is going to be counterintuitive, and I have some bad news here. I have nothing to sell you, and it's free, so you might not like it. The best thing you can do is take a hard look at your current social circle, your best friends, the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if they're drinking too much or smoking too much or doing drugs or have a crappy diet or are sedentary, that is measurably contagious. If your 3 best friends are obese and unhealthy, it's 150% better chance that you're going to be overweight yourself. So while I wouldn't necessarily tell you to dump your old friends, I think the very best thing you can do for your long-term health and your longevity is, at this age, is what are you, middle age, like maybe 35 or 40?
Yep, going on 40.
So this is a perfect time. And I'm sure you have healthy friends, but a lot of people don't. But to find 2 or 3 more healthy friends that you may add to your immediate social circle. That these are people you say to yourself, I'm going to make these people a best friend. And they should be people whose idea of recreation is playing pickleball, or you're in Vail skiing, or biking, or gardening, but an active thing. People who care about you on a bad day. People you can have a meaningful conversation. I just had a fight with my wife or my husband, and I'm just at my wit's end, and I can call them up and say, Matt, I'm at the brink of tears, and have a friend who will actually sit and listen to you. That's actually the litmus test the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation uses for a true friend. And then it's a good idea to have at least one vegan or vegetarian in your immediate social circle, because they're going to teach you how to eat plant-based. And more important, they're going to know where to get delicious plant-based food. And not only that, when they come over to your house, they're going to expect you to prepare it for them. So you got to learn it. And why do I say this is so powerful? Friends are long-term adventures. Our best friends, if you look back and you think right now, who are my best friends? For most of us, we've known them for 10 decades. So if we bring on some new best friends with the right behaviors, that's going to be exerted on your life for decades. Not like a diet, which lasts 7 months, or an exercise program, which lasts about 9 months, or a supplement program, which lasts a few months, and then we run out of gas. Not to say these things aren't good, but if you look at the data, they just don't last for most people like friendships do.
We have a saying, it's have your environment look like your goals, right? And, as Dan always says, right, make the healthy choice the easy choice. So, you get that watermelon home, don't have it just sitting there, like slice it up and then put it in either on the counter or put it in Tupperware containers in the fridge. And then you put it out and you'll be amazed how it's gone before you know it. Like I can tell you, having 3 young kids, we've always got fruit everywhere, but you got to make it easy to eat. You can't have it a honeydew or a cantaloupe or a watermelon, or a mango just sitting there. It's helpful if it's sliced and ready to go. So there's a little bit of, make that healthy choice the absolutely easy choice. And to your point, and AJ, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So yeah, don't make this about willpower and just like have the contraband. Like, don't have it in the house. Otherwise you will be drawn to it like a moth to flame. No doubt about it. So that's that.
I don't want to
God.
encourage people to eat food that has spoiled. That's for sure. But I think we can, when we're eating plants, I would definitely follow the best before dates for animal products. But when we're eating plants, you can really tell if something is not good. It's got mold or spoilage. It smells bad. If these things, if there's no evidence that the food is not good and it's a whole food, like you said, like a broccoli, have at her. And I think the biggest thing is it's not only best before dates, but I think as a society, we're so busy, we're so go, go, go. And we run into the grocery store maybe on Sunday or Monday after work. And we're like grabbing things off the shelf and we get home and there's no plan. So I think the number one way to start reducing waste in your own home, and remember, this is not just for the planet, you're going to save a lot of money. You can reduce really your grocery bill by half if you're really mindful about the food that you're buying and then eating. Meal planning. So I'm not saying that you need to go and get our meal planners that we have or a cookbook or anything like that. This can be as simple as the notes app on your phone, writing down, what am I going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner this week? What am I thinking for snacks? And then kind of making a corresponding grocery list. This can really take like 10 minutes, and it's going to also save you time during the week and really save your budget and the groceries that you buy. So planning is really my number one thing when I tell people about reducing waste.
Yeah.
And composting, you can compost. A lot of my city has like a green bin program where they pick up waste every week and they compost it.
Why we really don't want to drink our calories. I mean, yes, can you have a smoothie here and a coffee here and, you know, a protein shake here? Sure. But the problem is that most Americans, Matt, between sunup and sundown, they're consuming between 500 and 1,250 liquid calories. And the problem is our brains and our stomachs don't register these calories as calories, and people will invariably consume the same amount of solid food in addition to their liquid calories. And so, you know, I'm like, think about it. You got your coffee, and what do you add to it? Sugar and creamer. All of a sudden, that black coffee that would be 0 calories is now about 120. A lot of people have some sort of a juice in the morning, apple juice, orange juice, the V8. People go to Starbucks or Caribou Coffee and they have their soy frappa mappuccino, right? That's a good 400, 450 calories. It's basically like liquid candy. And then people have their green juices, right? So many people are married to their green juices and their smoothies. And that's a good 300 to 500 calories where you're throwing in, you know, a handful of bananas and a scoop of peanut butter and a couple scoops of muscle protein and blueberries and spinach. And it's just, it all adds up. And then we got the glass of wine at night to unwind. And we've got a glass of, you know, a lot of Americans, a glass of milk during the day and coconut water. And it goes on and on and on. And so my thing is, forget about all that for 7 days and just drink water. And if you got to do coffee, do black coffee. And you'd be amazed how when you remove those liquid calories, how you're removing over the course of that week, a good almost 4,000 to 20,000 calories. Okay. And we all know there's 3,500 calories in a pound. So it adds up in a hurry.
People would always say to me, oh, it's so expensive to eat the way you eat. Like organic vegetables are expensive, right? So that's one category. Even wealthy people would tell me organic food was expensive. Then on the other hand, the rest of the country, right? There's only 500 Whole Foods in the entire nation, right? So most of the country has never even heard of Whole Foods, right? And there's no health food stores, no farmers markets. Most of what they call these flyover states are food deserts, right? In the 1940s, during World War II, almost half of the country was growing their own food. Today, less than 1% of Americans grow their own food. And when I
Okay.
realized that I could create a countertop garden and add some seeds, add some water, and grow organic vegetables without soil, without sunshine, without fertilizer, that was the biggest aha, epiphany, light bulb turning into fireworks moment of my life.
There's these processed sugary drinks. Alcohol is not good for you in any amount. I don't care what people tell you. You look at the research, they redid it. Those who had abstained from alcohol are still healthier than those who consume a little bit to moderate to heavy. It's what has happened in the studies where they thought, oh, the teetotalers were more unhealthy than those who drank, moderate amounts, where they were actually the ones who had been sick and stopped drinking. That's what they classified as teetotalers. They weren't true teetotalers, but you look at someone who's never drank or very little consumption, that's where you see the benefit. There's alcohol has been associated with increasing, like I think up to, the last I read, 6 or 7 different types of cancer. So no, thank you. Cancer is not something I need to help promote in my body. And that's the one thing. I mean, I can measure my blood pressure. I can go get a CAC score where, see what my heart disease, my cholesterol. Cancer's a little bit harder. It's insidious. It's a little tricky. So I'm going to do everything I can. If I die from cancer, it won't be because of things that I've chosen to do, at least consciously.
First and foremost, regardless of the total macronutrient, what your macronutrient distribution, whether it's 60-20-20, 60-30-10, 70-15-15, 70-20-10, 80-80-11-9, whatever it is, it's that is less important than trying to maximize your total plant intake on a daily basis. Okay. I would much prefer that you eat 90% or more of your diet as plants and a small amount of animal food or no animal food, right? Rather than you doing it another way, rather than you saying, oh, I'm eating about 50% of my food as plants and 50% of my food as animal products. Okay. If you can control that one variable and try and maximize the total number of plants that are going into your body, again, I said somewhere about 90% or more, which is quite achievable. And I know it may sound a little bit scary to many people, and that's okay. It's something you can definitely evolve into over the course of months to years is fine. But if you can move in that direction and really kind of minimize your animal product intake, what you're going to find is that many things happen. Number one, the amount of inflammation, total body inflammation in your body can go down significantly, specifically inside of your cardiovascular system. Your cardiovascular system is an incredibly intricate highway that's specifically designed to transport blood and all of the components of blood, thousands of different types of cells inside of your blood that are inside of your immune system that transport oxygen, that are there for, anti-inflammatory effects. Your highway system is incredibly important. And when you lower the total amount of animal products in your diet, you significantly improve the function of your cardiovascular system. You significantly reduce the amount of atherosclerosis that's present, which is the hardening of blood vessels. You can lower your total cholesterol. You can lower your LDL cholesterol. You can lower your blood pressure. And all of those are good things because it's going to keep you on this planet for a longer period of time. Okay. In addition to that, you also might experience what I've experienced, which is that you just have reduced musculoskeletal inflammation. You have reduced joint pain, reduced muscle pain, reduced muscle fatigue, reduced joint fatigue. All of that is likely to come for the ride. I experienced it. I've talked to hundreds of people that have also experienced the exact same thing. Number three, you might find that you're thinking better. Okay. The ability of your brain to utilize glucose as a fuel in a plant strong environment is unbelievable. And when you provide your body and your digestive system with a very high plant diet, you will likely find that your brain operates better. Your memory is likely to be better. If you are at risk for depression or anxiety, and if that's something you've experienced for a long period of time, a lot of people tell us that when they switch to a plant-based diet, that their feelings of anxiety significantly go down and their feelings of depression significantly go down. And people use it as a tool now, specifically to improve their mental health. And then number four, last but definitely not least, gut health. Gut health has been this massive, massive subject over the course of the last 15 to 20 years. And there's a ton of research that demonstrates that not only the quantity of fiber that you put in your mouth, but the diversity of fiber, the different types of fiber that you put into your mouth from eating different types of plant food matters. Okay. Rather than eating your 5 favorite foods over and over and over again, let's call it chickpeas, mangoes, bananas, dates, and oranges. Okay. If you ate those 5 foods, you'd be getting a small collection of fibers from those foods. But if you widened it out and you had 30 different types of plants in your diet on a weekly basis, you had some arugula today, some tomatoes tomorrow, some black beans tomorrow, some pinto beans on Thursday, and you just keep things diverse by constantly sort of changing and diversifying your plant intake, the increase in diversity of fiber has a tremendous impact on the function of your gut, which in turn improves the function of your liver, your kidney, your brain, your thyroid gland, your muscles, and your cardiovascular system. So all of those beautiful things come along for the ride. And I strongly recommend that when people make the transition to eating a plant-based diet, you do it over the course of time, you do it very systematically, and you set your sights on trying to get as plant strong as possible. And somewhere along the way, it could be 2 weeks into it, it could be 2 months into it, it could be 2 years into it, you're likely to feel what I felt. You're likely to feel this sort of electric shock, which wakes you up and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this feels good. This feels amazing, right? Thousands of people I've spoken with, and you tell me if you feel the same way too. When you eat a plant strong diet, it's not just in theory, you feel it and it feels amazing.
I'm a firm believer that moderation kills, and I'm very blunt with patients. It really does. I mean, if you want 100% of the effects, you're gonna have to dive into the deep end of the pool, right? And so when it comes to discussing, oh, I don't want to deprive myself of this, I'm like, well, let's step back and see what you're actually depriving yourself of. If we actually put this in focus, you're actually depriving yourself of chronic disease, early death, and pain and inflammation. So there's that piece. And when you're talking about taste, I'm like, how many meat choices, the animal products that are non-meat based? So you have eggs, you have cheese and dairy products, you have poultry, pork, beef, different things. Like, so, okay, there's there's probably less than 10. And I'm like, versus the thousands and thousands of plants, right? So each of these come with a different variety of flavors and colors and ways to cook them. And you're not going to most people don't just eat, some cooked piece of meat. They're putting some type of seasoning on it, some spices, which in and of themselves have great flavor potential for your vegetables. So I feel like, so you're just removing the components of illness and adding in all these amazing things. So you're going to get health and more energy and better sleep and longevity and lower cholesterol and stop medications. And so it's really a con and pro list. And I'm just like, let's just walk through it and let's just look at this objectively and take your feelings out of it. Because at the end of the day, what are you really wanting? And then I look at them and say, so what do you truly value? Do you value the few moments that food is on your taste bud? Or do you value the time that you're going to be able to spend with your family and be active and do those things? So I try to push it off to a value that they really love. So for me and you, I know it's a strong sense of family, right? I would do anything for my family. And if it means giving up meat, not a problem. If it means doing whatever, for me, it's like, it all goes back to family. Like if anything I do, my identity, my work goes back to value of family and friends and relationships. And so, so that's the conversation that we have. And most people resonate with that, and it gives them something to think about. Even if they don't embrace a whole food plant-based diet, it's certainly planted a deep seed versus just kind of scattering seed and say, eat plants, it's healthier. But it's like, let's get into it a little bit.
We have strong science as to what are the most helpful foods to add to your diet and the most important foods to delete from your diet in order to prevent chronic diseases. Just as an example, there's a massive international study called the Global Burden of Disease Registry, GBD. For over 20 years, they've been providing very important nutrition information and health and disease follow-up all over the world in dozens and dozens of countries in massive numbers. So they reported last year that there are 3 foods that add to your longevity more than any others. And they could have picked anything. And they picked, number one, whole grains. Whole grains add a few years of longevity just by putting them in your diet. Enjoy your whole grain breads, your whole grain pastas. Bake with whole grain sources. Number two was actually nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds add a couple of years of longevity to your life and avoid disease. So be sure to add them in. I like, raw walnuts as my favorite example. And the third was the famous legumes, the beans, the peas, the lentils, also add a couple of years of longevity. Now, if you do all three, you're really going to get years of benefit and avoidance of chronic disease. What were the next two on the list? But these were in the bright red warning, warning. These rob you of years and rob you of health. They were all red meats and processed red meats like bologna, salami, hot dogs, and pepperoni. They lost years from your health span and your lifespan and contributed to diseases like type 2 diabetes, coronary heart disease, dementia, and colorectal cancer. And just below them, we're back to the good news, was fruits and vegetables. They add longevity to your lifespan. But interestingly, the whole grains and nuts and seeds and legumes were the most powerful group. If you want another little easy to remember mnemonic, you use the mnemonic G-bombs. You've probably heard of G-bombs. Greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. And adding G-bombs every day to your diet, no matter what else you eat, can be healthy and promote the avoidance of chronic disease. You don't want to get that type 2 diabetes, those cancers, those deterioration of your brain health. And you certainly don't want to get my specialty, coronary heart disease, the poor circulation throughout your body. So eat smart, eat intelligent, and eat quality.
Like literally, there's a meditation that I do where I stare at sprouts over the course of a day, and you can literally see them grow. Like literally see them grow because they're growing exponentially. Like they are growing. You can see. It's not going to be like, cold fusion, boom. But all of a sudden, like if you're staring at them, and this is a great meditative process, you can actually see the external surface of the seed open, and slowly the shoot comes out. But that might take 8 hours. So you, in your brain, you're having the time lapse. But when you're eating the sprout, you're eating the entire living organism that is alive. And it's like consuming a stem cell. So for me, like I want to eat things that are alive. I'm alive. So I want water-based food. I want nutrient-dense food. I want antioxidant-filled food. All raw food, right? Raw plant food is prebiotically rich, right? So it has natural prebiotics in the insoluble fiber. And so that becomes key. Now, where sprouts come in is that you can take like a few tablespoons of broccoli seeds and get like a whole jar of broccoli sprouts in 5 days or 6 days. So literally like small amount of seeds, you add water and they double every day. And then you get these like organic vegetables and you get to eat fresh organic vegetables. So if you're thinking about another concern about food safety, right? If you're bringing food from a conventional farm, right? And all soil food requires fertilizer. Lots of fertilizer is coming from animal waste, right? Compost animal waste. And then they're adding it to the soil, and then they're handling the soil. And I know myself, it's really hard to take that lettuce and properly wash it. But if you take the seeds and you have sprouting seeds, and you put them in a little, container, and you use a rapid oxidizing agent, whether it's sodium hypochlorous, or hydrogen peroxide, or glacial acidic acid, white vinegar, you can remove any surface level bacteria, microorganism, pathogen by 2 million to 1 in 5 minutes. So you can take a seed, or starting off with an organic seed, surface sanitize it. Then, if you care, you wash your sprouting equipment in the sink or the dishwasher with hot water and soap. And then you wash it. You're getting like a fresh crop. Like every day that I'm eating sprouts, I'm getting a fresh crop of sprouts. And
Yeah,
I
awesome.
consider this elite food, right? This is elite food, but it's also the most affordable, where you can have a serving of sprouts that you grow on your own for under $1 a serving.